Hey everybody, welcome back to another daily creative challenge. My name is Jesus Ramirez and I'm so glad that you're here with me today for challenge number 2, where we're going to learn how to remove distracting elements from a portrait and also add other enhancements. How are you guys today? I'm looking at the chat and as usual I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for being here, Ishmael, Mina, Carlos, Marilyn, Sam, Anna, Tony, Robert. Thank you so much. I'm really, really happy that you're here with me today for the Daily Creative Challenge number 2. How are you guys? So, before we get started, I want to show you guys this page, which is a Daily Creative Challenge page. If this is the first time that you're here with me, go to it. It's on behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And you can click on this big blue button to take the challenge. And if you scroll down, you will also see the past challenges. We've done one so far. Yesterday, we did a drawing effect from a photo, and you can click on the Get Started button to download the assets and click on the Watch Video to watch the video. For today's challenge, we don't have an asset file that you can download, but you'll be able to watch the recording for this video here. Now, even though we don't have a downloadable asset, if you want to follow along with the image that I'm using, I am providing that, and you can find that here on onsplash.com. I have the link, and I'm going to post it in the chat so that you guys can download it if you want. If you're watching the recording, then you're going to have to look for this image by Philippe Calvante, and you probably can just search for that URL there, and you should be able to find it, or that image ID. But the image is not important. This is just for you to practice. For the challenge, I would recommend that you guys actually use your own images and only use the image that I'm providing so that you can try it out and then see how it works, and then take your own photo and then apply the changes and adjustments that we're going to make to it to your actual photo, not the one that I'm using. So try to upload that into the Discord page. Talking about the Discord page, let me open up this image here. If you haven't already, join us on Discord. The link is right up above my head. And that link will get you to this page, which is our Discord page. Currently, I'm in the feedback section under current challenge, and you can already see a whole lot of people submitting their work from yesterday's challenge. A lot of good work. As you can see, there was a lot of questions. For example, here, I didn't mention exactly where the textures folder was, so I provided a screenshot so that people could see where that folder was. And as you can see, other people are asking questions about it, people submitting their work. This is a really cool one. I like the pen that the person photoshopped right on top of the piece of paper. Really clever. I like that. But anyway, yeah. So come into the Discord page, and you can post about your current challenge. I'll comment on it. The other Adobe mentors will comment on it as well. And users just like yourself can ask questions, leave feedback, whatever you guys want to do. There's also a section to post tips, ask questions, tips and tricks, a whole bunch of cool stuff. So I highly, highly recommend that you go to that page. Once again, the link is right up above my head. Or you can go back into the Daily Creative Challenge page and scroll down and click on join us to join the community. So both links will help you get there. So be sure to check that out. I see that more people are joining us. We got Michelle, Claudia from Print My Soul, Claire. Oh my God, let me see if I can pronounce your name. Dananjay. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but thank you for joining us. Mueller, Aurora, thank you so much for being here with me today. So, thank you. Chad said that yesterday's challenge was very cool. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you liked it. For those of you that weren't here yesterday and you want to watch the challenge, you can scroll down and click on watch video here, and you can see the challenge that we worked on, and then you can also submit it to Discord after we're done, after you're done. This was the challenge yesterday. One thing I wanted to mention about the challenge yesterday is some people were talking about on Discord that some of the edges were too sharp. So we ran a little bit out of time, but one of the ideas that I wanted to share with you guys is that you can come in there and you can start painting on the edges yourself to roughen them up a little bit. Maybe even add a layer mask and erase some parts, or with the assets that I provided, you can actually overlay them on the edges like I did there so that they're not so sharp. So you can try that on that effect if you want. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video and then you'll know, and you can come and try these techniques out to roughen up the edges a little bit. So for today's challenge, we're going to use this photo, and this is actually the before photo. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to remove distracting elements from a photo and maybe add an adjustment layer or two to make it look a little bit better. See that? See how this pole is missing from the after photo, this weird spot here, this post in the background, the manhole, and just for fun, even this part of her jacket I removed from the photo. Oh, and actually her watch as well. Just to show you how you can remove distracting elements from a photo so that the viewer only focuses on the model and not other distractions. The watch wasn't really a distraction, but I just thought it'd be cool to remove it. So that's what we're going to work on today. So you can download that photo that I showed you. I posted a link on the description. I see that Sam just posted it again. Thank you, Sam. And let's get right to it. So you can use whatever photo that you like. So you don't have to use this one and submit this one to Discord if you don't want. I would recommend submitting your own photo and then maybe a before and after shot so that we could see what you removed from the photo. Otherwise, we would never know what you took away from the photo. So make sure that you submit a before and after. And what we're going to do is just start. We're going to work non-destructively, which means that I can always remove the adjustments. You see how I'm clicking on this eye icon? So everything that we're going to work on, we can always decide to say, you know what, I don't like this. I'm just going to throw it away and delete it, and the original picture is back. But I'm going to keep that for now. So we're going to start by removing this yellow and black pole here on the left hand side, and there's a lot of ways of doing that in Photoshop. One of the easiest ways to do something like this is just creating a new layer. So I'm gonna click and drag the actual background layer onto the new layer icon, because you always want to work non-destructively. And you can fill it with content aware fill. So I'm going to select the lasso tool and I'm going to click and drag a very rough selection around the areas that I want to remove. Then I can go into edit, content aware fill. Oops, sorry about that. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to go into the older one, edit. I'm going to show you both. Edit, fill, and then this fill window comes up, and under contents you have content aware, and you can press OK, and Photoshop magically removes that pole. It's really cool, right? It just disappears. The other thing I was going to show you is that for more complicated areas, you could use the edit content aware fill dialog. So it's a little bit different. And this one just simply gives you all these different options so that you could control how the fill works. So for example, in this case, it's not really necessary. It works really well. But the green is what Photoshop is using to analyze the image to generate the new pixels. So maybe I don't want Photoshop to focus on the jacket or her hair or her body. So I can just subtract that by painting on it. And I'll paint it really, really quickly. And then Photoshop will reanalyze the image and then use these pixels to generate the fill. So maybe I also don't want Photoshop to focus on the sidewalk. I just want basically the road, not even this part. So you have a lot of flexibility over what you can select that Photoshop analyzes. And then you have all these different buttons here on the right-hand side. All these controls allow you just to change how the algorithm controls. And you see that as I'm making the changes, the fill changes. The one cool thing about this particular layer, as opposed to using the duplicating layer method that I used in the first step, was that you can output directly to a new layer. So if I select output to new layer and press OK, that fill gets placed in a brand new layer. So it is a non-destructive method. So that's the one that I'm going to keep, and I'll just delete the original background number 2 because we don't need it. I just wanted to show you both methods One is a little easier, but you do have to duplicate the layer. The other one takes a little more work, but it gives you more flexibility and you can work non-destructively. So it's up to you which one you use. I just wanted to show you both methods and you use the one that you feel more comfortable with. But yeah, so Sam says, that's a really cool option. Yes, it is, Sam. Thank you. So what we're going to do now is work on removing something else using a different tool. So this tool works great for blemishes or for maybe, like maybe you're eating like a hamburger and you get ketchup on your shirt. It's good to remove stains of things. So again, working on that same layer, that same blank layer, I can select the spot healing brush tool and make sure that content aware is selected and also that sample layers are selected. That way, when you paint on that blank layer, you sample from the layer below. So what I'm going to do here is select the zoom tool, and there it is, finally got it, and zoom in right here. So I know that's part of the actual style of the jacket, is not really a stain, but maybe we don't like it, so we can remove it. So with the spot healing brush tool, I can just enable this blank layer. I'm just going to call this layer retouch. That's where I'm going to apply my retouching. And then I'm just going to increase or decrease the size of the brush by using the left and right bracket keys. And I can just start painting away those distractions. So see, very, very simple. So I'm gonna double click on the hand tool to fit the image to screen. So that's a cool trick that I like using. If I'm zoomed in into something, I can double click on the hand tool and it zooms right out so it fills the image to screen. Another cool thing that you can do is if you're zoomed in, you can double click on the zoom tool and it fits the image to 100%. So basically what that is right clicking and selecting 100%, double clicking on the zoom tool, and double clicking on the hand tool is the same as right clicking and selecting fit to screen. So just remember, if you're zoomed in and you just want to zoom out to a level that's more manageable, either double click on the hand tool or double click on the zoom tool and you will be able to zoom out to those levels. But yeah, so double click on the hand tool, fits the image to screen. Anyway, let's move on. So we've looked at the content aware fill. We looked at the spot healing brush tool. Another tool that I like using to remove distracting elements from a photo is the powerful patch tool, which is nested under the spot healing brush tool. So I'm going to select the patch tool. And unfortunately for this one, I do need to work with a duplicate layer. So I will need to duplicate this layer and work with the duplicate. I can't work on a blank layer and do like a sample all for this particular tool. So you do need to duplicate it. So the patch tool needs to have its own layer if you want to work non-destructively. And what this tool allows you to do is to make a selection, for example, of this area of the jacket, click and drag it to another similar area, release, and then Photoshop blends the pixels and the texture so that it matches. And if it doesn't do a good job, like in this area here, I can make another selection, click and drag it down, and it works really, really cool, as you can see. So this is great for fixing things with texture like this jacket. Let me see if I can find another area. I guess you could also use it for removing these type of blemishes, not blemishes, paint drops as well. So it works for that as well. But it's just a really cool tool that allows you to select an area and you can decide where to drop the selection so that it picks up the texture and the color and all that good stuff, and it blends it together and it makes a seamless transition between what you had before and the new pixels that you brought in, which is super, super cool. Oh yeah, yep. Somebody said to make sure that I was reading the comments, and yes, on this retouch layer, make sure that I have sample all layers when I'm using the spot healing brush tool. That checkbox right there. So I saw that in the comments, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody got that. I'll double click on the hand tool once again just to see the image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layer, hold shift, click on the layer below. So I select both layers. Then I'll right click and select, not right click, why am I right clicking? I can just click on the folder icon here to put those two layers into a group. And now I have all those layers in one group and you can see the before and after. I'm also keeping an eye out in the time because there's a couple things I want to show you before we end the stream. So the next thing that I want to show you is the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool allows you to simply clone pixels from one area to another. So I can actually work on a blank layer in this case. Just make sure that you select either all layers, current and below, or just the current layer. So I think they're self-explanatory. Current layer simply means that you're going to be analyzing the pixels of the layer that you're currently on. Current and below will look at the layer that you're on and the layers below, but not the layers above. So for example, if I were to click on this background layer, I will only analyze the pixels on that layer and anything below, but nothing above. So that's something that you got to keep in mind with these options. And then all layers just means anything. So it doesn't matter if the layers are below or the layers are above. The clone stamp tool will analyze all those layers as you paint to create the cloning effect. In this case, it really doesn't matter if I select current and below or all layers, but I usually like current and below just because sometimes I may have an adjustment layer on top of something and I don't want the adjustment layer affecting my clone. So current and below on this retouch layer, and if I wanted to paint away this watch, it just becomes just like a matter of increasing or decreasing the size of your brush. I'm using the left and right bracket keys on the keyboard. If you don't like keyboard shortcuts, you can click on this drop down and then adjust the size of your brush through that slider. But anyway, so once you have the brush at an appropriate size, you can hold the Alt key on Windows and Option key on the Mac to select the sample source. And I just changed my mind on one thing. I'm just going to work on a brand new blank layer so that I can manipulate it. So then I can just hover over an area, and again, I'll do that just in case it was confusing. So I selected a sample source, so Alt, Option on the Mac, and click. So now in that preview, you can see what I'm painting. If I increase the brush size, you can see what I'm gonna paint with, which is super cool. So then I'm gonna paint here on the edge, and I'm just gonna start painting in these areas like so. And it's okay if it's not perfect. Right now, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just trying to get rid of the watch, and then I'll worry about making it perfect. So I see a lot of new users trying to make everything perfect and spend so much time just on something when they're first starting with the project that it doesn't make much sense. It's a lot like drawing, actually. For those of you that draw, you don't really start working on like the full drawing like right in the beginning. You sketch it out, you know, do a rough sketch, then you might come in and do some pencil work, then some pen work, and then, you know, finally you start adding color and doing all these things. So for now, this is good, right? Then I can start using some of the other tools that we used before. Maybe you use the clone stamp tool in some areas, like here, just to try to heal that effect. Also, you might come here, click, and I notice that if I keep painting, like the line of the arm goes too low, and obviously that's not gonna work. But what we can do is select a sample source like here, and then go into the window, clone source option, and then we can rotate the sample source. See that? See how I'm rotating the sample source? So now when I paint, the sample source is rotated. I gotta rotate it even further than that. We'll go something crazy so it's more obvious. Yeah, there we go. Something like this. Something that will match sort of the line of her arm. See that? And actually that wasn't a very good job, but I think you get the idea. It rotated the sample source, so now I was able to cut through that line. And something that you may want to do also, you don't necessarily have to just clone and copy pixels. For example, you can just maybe select one of these colors, and I had 11 by 11 average, which makes a really, really big selection. I actually want a smaller selection in this case. So I'm gonna go to point sample and just select like the shadow color, and you can like actually just paint with like the brush tool using just like a regular stuff brush, and we'll see how that works. I'll just maybe even sample some of the darker color here. So paint here to here, and then maybe even fade it a little bit. So one thing, what I did there is I clicked once, held shift and click again, and Photoshop creates a straight line between those 2 points. So keep that in mind. So I'll do that again. So I click once, hold shift, click again, and then I can go into edit, fade brush tool, and just fade my opacity of that brush stroke. See that? See how I'm fading it? I can fade it, press OK. I can use something like the smudge tool to maybe smudge it a little bit so it's not so sharp. But anyway, you can see it's Photoshop is all about fine tuning, so you would have to spend some time fine tuning it. But you know, you can see that with a little more work, you can get this to work. What I would do at this point is maybe clone some of the pixels on this area. So Alt Option on the Mac. Make sure that I reset my rotation on this. So click on this icon here so it's not rotated. So then just start painting away some of these distracting shadows like so. You just gotta make sure that you don't have any pixels that are obviously repeating. And always go into Edit, Fade, and then fade your last one just a little bit so that you kind of blend the pixels. But I think you get the idea. So use the clone stamp tool, select the sample source, do a rough draft, just paint things away as quickly as you can. Don't worry about being perfect, and then come back and start fine tuning it after that. And in a few moments, you'll have something that's very convincing. In this case, I'm still noticing that I have a lot of dark patches that kind of give it away. So I probably would just use a spot healing brush tool to, you know, maybe remove those black patches like if I were removing a blemish on her skin. See that? Before and after. So it's just a matter of, you know, seeing what's there and trying to fix it. Also here, I'm actually changed the mode to lighten so that when I sample when I paint over an area, I only remove the darker pixels, see that? And keep the brighter ones. Also, see how she's got, I don't know if that's a scar, or maybe just like the way her hand is there, but see how that's bright right there? If I wanted to remove that, I would select darken and click and drag to remove it, because now I'm only targeting the darker pixels and it doesn't really like damage the texture of her skin. So that's like a really cool trick to remove things that are either like too dark or too bright on whether it's skin, clothing, or whatever. Select lighten to make those areas. If you have something dark, you want to select lighten to lighten up those areas. If you have something bright, you want to select darken to darken those areas. So, but anyway, so again, really quickly, we're making those changes, and I'm also keeping an eye out on the time. We don't have much time, but I just wanted to show you a couple other things that you can do. You can you can click on the new adjustment layer icon and just use something like levels to adjust it. See how in the black point here, the information in the histogram doesn't really start till much further to the right. Just click and drag it to where the information starts, and that way you'll get more contrast in the image. Also, when you're working with either levels or curves to adjust luminosity, you want to change the blending mode to line, and let me show you why. If I just make an extreme adjustment, let me see which one works better. Okay, an extreme adjustment, there you go. I made the image darker, right? But notice how much the image was saturated. So when we apply levels and curves, the image also gets saturated, and you may not necessarily want to do that. So if you are just creating these adjustment layers to control the luminosity, then make sure that you change the blending mode to luminosity. So see that? That's with luminosity, and that's normal. Luminosity and normal. See that? See how it's much more saturated? So inadvertently, you're adding more saturation to an image when you're using those adjustment layers. So if your purpose of using that adjustment layer is to control the luminance like I did there, make sure that you switch the blending mode to luminosity. That way you only affect what you really want to affect. So I'm going to change the blending mode to luminosity. To be frank with you, in something like this, something subtle like I just did here, you probably could get away with it with not using luminance as the blending mode, but I'm still giving you that option so that you have it available when you need it. Somebody wrote, "Is the lady in the pig voodoo voodoo?" I'm guessing he might be referring to Voodoo Belle. I don't know, but no, it's not. But yeah, so I'm looking at the time. We don't have much more, but I think I cover everything that I wanted to show you guys. This is before and this is after. So we were able to remove all these distracting elements from a photo just by using a couple easy to use Photoshop tools and one adjustment layer. So I would recommend you guys trying it out on this photo, then find a photo from your phone or somewhere in your library and just try to remove something from the image and then post it on Discord with the before and after shot. If you don't know how to do a before and after shot, what I would do is just simply, just with the crop tool, just make your canvas larger, and then duplicate the layer. Put the layer with the adjustments and the duplicate layer in another group, and just move the image to the side like so. Select the crop tool again and just crop it in. And then now you can just save this image as a JPEG. File, export, quick export as JPEG or PNG, wherever it is, and you can upload it to Discord, social media, or anywhere else. Another place that you should upload your images is to Behance. Make sure you can click on create a project, and you head over to Behance to create a project and click on upload files. You can upload your image. I'll upload the one I did before, and just continue through the process. I'm looking at the time, so I really have to let you guys go. But just make sure you upload everything to Behance. Go back into Discord right up above here. Don't forget about that. I'll be back tomorrow for another daily creative challenge. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today. I'll be talking to you again tomorrow, and I'll see you guys at Discord. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.